Wrestling with Wrestling's Past and Present. I'm Tim Kurt.
And I'm Roland Fulis.
And today it is all about Survivor Series. For the past part of the show, we're going to be talking about the Survivor Series, which took place in 1987. And then for the present, obviously, we're talking about Survivor Series 2019, which takes place tomorrow.
Mind you, Survivor Series 1987. How old were you?
I was -3.
So for us to go back and watch that, I didn't have a recollection of it. I mean, I know the wrestlers and stuff, but 1987, it's fun to go back and look at some of the stars from back then. Like, there was a lot of stars on that episode.
Yeah, I was looking through my notes here, going through the list of performers. There's so many Hall of Famers and legends going on in here. And it's hard not to when you have a 10-on-10 tag team match where there's like 20 wrestlers. So that's like half the WWE Hall of Fame right there.
They at one point during the beginning of the match, they have Bobby Heenan ringside trying to get people to move out of the way of the hard cam because they're so far to one side that they couldn't shoot the ring. They had it with the handheld, and they had to tell Heenan to get people to move. Because there was no way to shoot it because there was just so many people
there's so many
on
people.
the side of the ring.
Yeah. But look, just like in the first match alone, this was the first match. You had, on one team, you had Brutus Beefcake, Jake Roberts, Jim Duggan, Randy Savage, and Ricky Steamboat. I believe they're WWE Hall of Famers. And they're taking on the Honky Tonk Man, Ron Bass, Hercules, Harley Race, and Dangerous Danny Davis. So,
mind you, Dangerous Danny Davis from Dover, New Hampshire. And it even
Is
says
it really?
that in the Howard Finkel announces him.
that's right.
No
yes,
kidding.
I did remember.
Yeah,
I did catch that.
If you look at his Wikipedia page, he's actually supposedly from Massachusetts, but billed from Dover, New Hampshire, which I thought looks. I mean, we're recording this, a city over from Dover, New Hampshire. So I thought it was really cool.
Basically, you take a right out of where we're recording this, and you're in Dover.
Yeah.
I thought that what struck me the most was kind of like how it was not just this match, but through the whole show, just how simplistic the wrestling was. There were no fancy moves, no triple word named moves.
There was no diving out of the ring onto somebody.
No.
Team Macho Man, which literally is in '87, all the good guys in 1987 on one team. You like he said, you have Beefcake and Jake the Snake and Duggan, Steamboat. If you don't know those names, just from name alone, then I don't know what to tell you. Though, like he said, like Tim said, those 5 guys are all in the Hall of Fame. They're all in the WWE Hall of Fame. So I don't know how you can start a pay-per-view any better than with those. It's just those 5. If they were out there slapping each other around, okay, sweet. But you also have names like Honky Man and Harley Race.
You throw in Harley Race with those guys too.
Yeah.
I mean, Harley Race, obviously.
King Harley Race.
Obviously, Harley Race, not a name, probably not synonymous with WWE, more so NWA, but still a legend in the business and regarded as one of the best, if not the best, of all times.
Yeah. So, I mean, that match started off, there was kind of some, white-hot heat between Duggan and Race. So, they got eliminated first. They got counted out. And that was kind of, a good way to beat Harley but not beat Harley, to make him look strong, too, without beating him in the match, which I think was a theme for that match, because without knowing, what their thought was back in '87, they had the Honky Tonk Man as the greatest Intercontinental Champion of all time, so they didn't want to beat him. I don't think. I think they just wanted to, get out of there. It ends. For me, it ended a little weak, but I get it. I get the idea. They don't want to beat him. They want to make him look strong. But it was a tag match, and it was a non-title match, so you could have beaten him and got away with it.
It could have set up a feud, too. If you had Steamboat pin the Honky Tonk Man or something like that, that could have set up a feud. There's ways you could have gone with that, but they cut the easy way out, I think, by not wanting to defeat their champion.
Well, and you had to remember coming into that, too. You had Randy Savage and the Honky Tonk Man having a bit of a feud coming into that, where, this day and age, you're not going to see somebody push a woman down and get away with it, which you didn't see back then in '87 either. Macho Man wanted to go after him, and you felt how he felt, like enraged that he so the acting for that, for that whole thing, in '87, that was probably the best match on the pay-per-view.
And look at the just another side note too. Look at the talent of the managers involved. You had Bobby Heenan, you had Miss Elizabeth. Just all legendary managers in the match. So that first match, it's a way to open the show.
Yep, I liked it. I don't think there would have been a better way, looking at the matches they had, to open the show. I think that was a perfect open.
Yeah.
But it also could have been the main event. With
Absolutely.
The names in show.
Absolutely. The next match it was a women's match. You had the Fabulous Moolah, the Jumping Bomb Angels. I'm not even going to try to pronounce their names. I'm not going to pronounce it. Rockin' Robin and Velvet McIntyre. They're taking on Sensational Sherry, Donna Christanello, the Glamour Girls, and Donna.
With Jimmy Hart, I might add. So here's the second match, and Jimmy Hart's with Don Murray. Actually, it was with. I think he was with the.
He was with the Glamour Girls. Yeah, he was with the Glamour Girls.
Yeah.
What struck me about this one is I never think of Sensational Sherry as an in-ring performer. Growing up in the 90s, I always picture her as a manager. But she was actually the champion. She was the women's champion coming into this pay-per-view, which that was one thing I took note of when I was watching this back was, wow, Sensational Sherry, she could actually go in the ring.
Yeah, she was, back then, you didn't have very many women, for whatever reason, that could really go. You had Moolah, and then you had, a cast of characters. So for Sherry Martel to get in the ring and actually take the title from Moolah and prove that she could go at least with Moolah. She may not have been better than Moolah, but at least she could hang with her. It was a feather in her cap too. But like you said, I picture her as, the valet for, Shawn Michaels, the valet for the Harlem Heat. Any of those teams that Sherry Martel had, like that, same thing. I hadn't really even given it a thought that she even wrestled in that era. I knew she had a wrestling background. But yeah, it was interesting to see that too. I agree.
And kind of going on our earlier point about how the wrestling was a little bit realistic back in '87, Rockin' Robin, and I took note of this, actually got eliminated after a suplex. You wouldn't see that today.
You have multiple wrestlers nowadays kicking out of multiple finishers.
Yes.
Finishing moves, not suplexes.
Not suplexes. And then the other thing, too, which was kind of interesting is, there's all this, going a little bit more modern day, there's this talk of the Women's Revolution, and they recently introduced the women's tag team belts. Well, actually, back in 1987, there was the women's tag team belts. The Glamour Girls, which was Leonie Kai and Judy Martin, they were women's tag team champions. Yeah. So this is something that WWE has done in the past, and now, fortunately for women's wrestling, they have brought it back now in 2019.
And really, for what it was a pretty good match. Actually,
I agree.
I coming into it, I'm like, oh boy, here's the let me up match, the bathroom break match for the people in the stadium. It was a pretty good match. I was surprised.
Yeah, I agree.
It ended with the Jumping Bomb Angels being the final two survivors. They actually bumped Jimmy Hart off the apron and then won the match.
Beating one of the, I believe it was Judy Martin that they pinned last.
Yes, I think so. I think you're right,
yeah. The third match, now it's going to take a long time to go run through all these. This was a 10-on-10 Survivor Series tag team match. And again, listen to the talent. On one side, you had the British Bulldogs, which were Davey Boy Smith and Dynamite Kid, the Killer Bees, the Fabulous Rougeaus, Strike Force, which was Rick Martel and Tito Santana, the Young Stallions, which was Jim Powers and Paul Roma. They defeated the Bolsheviks, Demolition, Action Smash, the Dream Team, which was Dino Bravo and Greg Valentine, the Hart Foundation, Bret Hart and Jim Neidhart, and the Islanders. And again, look at the talent for managers you had. You had Heenan, Mr. Fuji, Jimmy Hart, Johnny Valiant, and Slick. I believe all of those guys. I'm not sure about Johnny Valiant, but I think all of the guys are in the Hall of Fame.
There's Jimmy Hart again, pretty much coming out, changing his jacket and going right back. The show is now an hour and a half old, and he's been out there the whole time.
He's got probably the most camera time on the whole show so far. This match was long.
Well, and the nice thing was it wasn't you had to beat everybody. It was once one of your members of your tag team pinned or submitted or counted out or disqualified, the other one had to go back, because if they had to beat everybody out there, they'd still be there. We'd be here in 2019, and you'd have Bret Hart still wrestling against Greg Valentine, and they'd just be slapping each other around because it was that long. It was a 37-minute match. It was a good match, but it was a long match.
It was long. I think it was a little too long for me. When it was hard to. I found myself kind of losing focus and losing. I wouldn't say losing interest, focus, and hard to stay in tune with it to the whole match.
Yeah, especially when it got down to the last couple of teams, and it was weird that the last couple of teams, the survivors for the winning team were the Killer Bees and the Young Lions. If you look at the names there, would you bet money that those guys would have been around to win that match? No, you wouldn't have. And they beat the team that was last standing were the Islanders, which was Haku and Tama. So the last 3 teams in that match probably weren't really predicted to be there at the end anyways, I don't think.
The one thing I did take note, though, is the Killer Bees actually scored the pinfall. They were the faces in this match, but they actually cheated to win. They cheated to beat the Islanders. They did the whole switcheroo where they put a mask on one of their faces so you couldn't tell which Killer Bee it was. So that was kind of interesting that the faces cheated to win. I thought that was kind of worth noting. And
even Jesse the Body Ventura, who was doing commentary with Gorilla Monsoon, even noted that, saying, hey, you're supposed to be the good guy. What are you doing out there doing, a bad guy trick to win the match? But I guess for Survivor Series, it win at all costs, and they pulled a typical heel move from a good guy team. So it was kind of weird in that aspect. It was different. And the other thing I noted from that match, too, was to have the Demolition be eliminated by disqualification was kind of a weird... I mean, I guess they didn't want to beat them either, so it was kind of a weird way to have them be eliminated. But, I mean, like I said, the match was long. Very long.
It was very long. Very, very long. And then after that match, you had what I thought was a pretty cool segment on the $1 Million Man where he was saying that he's got so much money, he doesn't have to compete tonight. He's having this extravagant Thanksgiving dinner. That's one thing we probably should mention. This show actually took place on Thanksgiving Day.
Yeah, Thanksgiving night, with Starrcade being earlier that day. So you had 2 wrestling events on Thanksgiving Day.
Then our main event, we are seeing Andre the Giant, Butch Reed, King Kong Bundy, One Man Gang, and Rick Rude. They're managed by Bobby Heenan and Slick. They're the team of Bam Bam Bigelow, Don Morocco, Ken Patera, Paul Orndorff, and Hulk Hogan. So this is a rare main event pay-per-view that Hulk Hogan does not get the win.
Brother.
But he does pose at the end, so we do get our Hogan poses.
The immortal Hulk Hogan. I felt like this match was just there for name power. I don't think there was really... I mean, obviously they were playing off that it was the first time since WrestleMania 3 that Andre and Hogan had stepped in the ring together, and they had all of that, but I just felt like it was kind of like there for me. It wasn't a great match. It wasn't bad. It wasn't a great match either, but I think also at that point, having the 37-minute match before that kind of made this match feel like, it's just there.
You were kind of worn out after that tag team match. I did like how, because Andre the Giant scored the winning pinfall after defeating Bam Bam Bigelow, I did like how they kind of gave Andre his moment, though, because at this time Andre was in decline. He's hurting. So I thought that was kind of cool. I mean, he lost at WrestleMania 3 against Hulk, and I thought it was kind of cool that they gave him this moment, at Survivor Series, picking up the win for his team.
And you look at the star power in this match, and I would argue with you the first match had more star power than this match, just with the names. I
agree.
I'm not saying there wasn't good wrestlers. I mean, you had Don Morocco, and you had Paul Orndorff, Mr. Wonderful, and Rick Rude. I mean, but you also had guys like, Ken Patera, and guys like, for lack of a better term, One Man Gang. He never really got over, so it's weird. But you also have guys like Bundy, who was kind of one of those always mid to upper card guys. Same with Bigelow.
Yep. Rick Rude.
Yeah, Rick Rude was the same way. He was more of an Intercontinental Champion type guy. But it's interesting. It was, like I said, it was a good match. I don't know. Again, it's kind of a weak way to have Hogan be eliminated by count out. But I get it. You don't want him to look... he's the face of your company in 87. If you beat Hogan clean, you must have been somebody.
Yeah.
So, it makes sense.
Yeah. So that is kind of our discussion about Survivor Series 1987. Scale of 1 to 10, I'd probably give it a solid 7.
Yeah, I was going to say 6 or 7.
Yeah.
If I had to rank the matches, honestly, I would say the first match with Team Macho against Team... That was easily the best match on the card, I think.
I agree.
And then, surprisingly, I think the worst match on the card was actually the main event. I mean, it wasn't a bad match, but the women's match might have been a little bit better, believe it or not.
I actually would put them in order as they were. I think that's how I would rank them. I would think 1, 2, 3, 4. I think it went from best to worst to me.
Right. I agree with that.
Yeah. So we're going to transition now and talk about Survivor Series 2019. This hasn't happened yet, so we're going to kind of go through the matches and each offer you our predictions as to what the results will be, and we'll probably be totally wrong.
There's 8 matches. I just get one.
Yeah,
I want to get one next week and be yes. All right.
So we're just going to run down first match.
Before we get into it, though, would you agree with me that this is probably the most anticipated Survivor Series in recent history?
Oh, I would agree with that, just for the simple fact that you have NXT being involved. And what I want to say, too, is I want to know if this was the plan all along, or if that travel situation when they were in Saudi Arabia and a lot of the talent was stranded and they couldn't make SmackDown. I want to know if did they change this on the fly?
Yeah, was it something that they had envisioned, or did they kind of end up envisioning it because they had to bail out the SmackDown after the snafu in Saudi Arabia? They stuck for what felt like days.
Yeah.
And, I don't know if they envisioned it this way, but I think it's really good what they did, whichever way it was.
Whatever it was. And I will say this, though. If it wasn't planned and it was something they came up with on the fly, they did a great job. Because that's
they could have very easily that Friday just had people from NXT show up.
Yeah.
To make it seem like a takeover and keep that angle going was genius. I don't know who came up with it, who exactly had, obviously, Triple H has his hands in it being the NXT guy. Mm-hmm. But whoever had that idea to do that and then keep it going nailed it. Because it's made the last 3 weeks of TV really interesting.
Yeah, absolutely. Definitely agree with you. All right, let's just run down the matches here and kind of go, with our predictions here. We're going to start off with the WWE Championship match. It's a no-holds-barred match between Brock Lesnar with Paul Heyman versus Rey Mysterio. I'm going with Brock Lesnar for this one. I don't think they're taking the belt off of him. I think they added the no-holds-barred stipulation to make you think Rey Mysterio has a chance. But I don't see them taking the title off Brock here.
Yeah, the fan in me wants to see Rey win.
Yeah, I agree.
And whenever Brock Lesnar is wrestling, the fan in me wants whoever he's wrestling to beat him anyways, just because he's never there. And it's Brock, it's whatever. He's still an attraction. My one thing that just kind of dawned on me, what if they made it no holds barred to have Dominic turn on Rey Mysterio?
Ooh, that would be good.
What if that reason they made it no holds barred? So Dominic comes out, or even Cain Velasquez, but obviously Dominic would be the better choice. What if he comes out to support Rey and just clubs him and costs him, and that's how they break Dominic into the business, feuding with his father? In that, turning on him, like what kind of thing, the swerve there.
That would be interesting. That would be cool. That's kind of like what I'm missing in wrestling too, is that value.
Yep.
That's what I miss about the Attitude Era.
Yep.
I think I want more shock value. You don't have to necessarily be dirty and nasty and vulgar,
right?
But you can have shock value, and I think that's a perfect example of it.
Yeah, I'm not saying. So if you had to put, you said Lesnar is your pick. I would pick Lesnar too, just based on the fact I don't think they're gonna have Mysterio beat him.
Yeah.
I'd like to see Rey win, but I'm also gonna pick Brock Lesnar.
Yeah. So then let's talk about the women's champion versus champion match. We have Becky Lynch, the Raw Women's Champion, taking on Bayley, who is the SmackDown Women's Champion, and Shayna Baszler, who is the NXT Women's Champion. I think this is going to be a great match. I think this match probably could be one of the best matches of the night. I'm going to take Becky Lynch on this one, just because I think she's so over right now. I don't think they're going to kill her momentum by having her lose.
I think the only way you beat Becky Lynch is if Shayna Baszler is the one to do it. In my opinion, I also think Becky's going to win, but I think the only way you can beat Becky is to have Shayna beat her. You have half of the 4 horsewomen that started the women's revolution in this match. So like Tim said, this match could be the match of the pay-per-view. This could be a really good match. All 3 of them can go. They've put Shayna Baszler up there as someone that's beaten everybody. And it wouldn't surprise me. If Becky were to lose, I think Baszler has to be the one to beat her. But I think if I had to blend in my head, Becky Lynch is going to win the match.
Yeah. So then we have another triple champion match. This is a tag team. We had the Viking Raiders in their, I think, 70th name. Name change.
The Viking experience. The War Raiders, the Viking Raiders.
They kind of like how we picked the name for this show, though.
Yeah, threw them in a hat and boom.
Threw them in a hat, see what happens.
Should just WWE come up with it. We should have contacted someone.
They're the Raw Tag Team Champions. They're taking on the New Day, which is going to be represented by Big E and Kofi Kingston.
They're doing it for Woods. They're doing it for Xavier Woods.
And then you have the Undisputed Era, which will be Bobby Fish and Kyle O'Reilly, the NXT Tag Team Champions.
I think for what it's worth right now, the Undisputed Era and is probably the most over thing they have right now. Because they were already over in NXT. They've been the ones involved in the takeover angle from day one. I feel like if I had to pick out of those three, the most over team right now in that group is the Undisputed Era. Yeah, and I'm actually before the show we made our predictions. I actually circled the New Day to win, but now that I'm thinking about it, before the Survivor Series, I said that NXT would probably win one match, and I think now that I'm thinking about it, I think this is the match that makes the most sense for them to win. Be this tag team. And you can beat the New Day. You don't have to beat if the Viking Raiders lose, they're not going to be the ones being pinned.
No,
we can agree on that.
Yeah,
there's no way they're pinning because they're billing them as monsters.
Yes,
so they're not going to lose this match as much as they're just going to be in the match. They won't be involved in the decision.
No.
So yeah, I agree with that too. I had the Undisputed Era circled from the get go. I think that you can't beat them in this match. I think Baszler in the match before can afford to lose, especially if she's not involved in the finish. If Bayley and painting this thing of 2 against 1 in that match, so you can see that maybe the Undisputed Era and the New Day, they take team and kind of take the Raiders aside and get them out of the match, get them out of the way, and that's a way that you beat them without beating them.
Sure, I absolutely agree. Then next we're going to talk about the Team Raw, Team SmackDown, Team NXT women's match. Team Raw being represented by Charlotte Flair, Natalya, Asuka, Kairi Sane, and Sarah Logan. Team SmackDown represented by Sasha Banks, Carmella, Dana Brooke, Lacey Evans, and Nikki Cross. And NXT is believed to be represented by Rhea Ripley, Toni Storm, Mia Yim, Tegan Nox, and Candice LeRae.
Mrs. Johnny Gargano.
My thought on this one, I'm picking Team SmackDown to win this one, just for the fact WWE is really pushing the women's division right now, and they're really pushing SmackDown with the whole move to Fox and everything like that. So my gut feeling is telling me that Team SmackDown will win this match.
I have Team Raw circled only because the first name on Team Raw,
Charlotte Flair.
She does not lose on pay-per-view.
Yeah.
Ever. So maybe this is the way they beat her. Maybe it's like 87. They get her counted out or disqualified and they get her out of the way. But I have Team Raw circled. I think this match has the potential to be a cluster. I think there's just going to be a lot of people out there, a lot of inexperienced people in the match that can just make it. I mean, they're not bad and they can wrestle, but I feel like this match might get away from us a little bit.
Yeah.
But I feel like it's still going to be a good match. But yeah, I think Team Raw, in my opinion, is going to win this match.
So let's talk about the men's Survivor Series match. Team Raw represented by Seth Rollins, McIntyre, Kevin Owens. By the way, quick note, Kevin Owens is my favorite wrestler today. Randy Orton and Ricochet. Team SmackDown represented by Roman Reigns, Mustafa Ali, Braun Strowman, King Corbin, and Shorty G. And Team NXT, which is to be determined as of right now, not know who will be on Team NXT.
Can we both agree, though, that there's probably some names we can decipher that'll be on that team? I mean, you have to figure Gargano. You have to figure Ciampa will be on that.
Finn Balor, possibly.
More than likely. He's not on the show, so you would think. And obviously, you're not going to have Adam Cole, and you're not going to have Rick Strong or Fish or O'Reilly from the Undisputed. So they're going to have to come up with at least two other people. But I would be willing to bet that there's at least 3 that we just named that'll be on that team. So that team's going to be stacked, even with just the 3 guys they have right there.
Absolutely.
So that this match could be the opposite of the last match, where it might be clustery, but it's going to be really good. It's going to be. I think this match is going to be nonstop action. With you get guys like, Shorty G, who's kind of underrated, I think, but he can wrestle well.
He can wrestle.
A good wrestler.
Yeah,
you
absolutely.
Have guys like Ricochet. Rollins isn't a high flyer, but he can be. So you have a lot of talent that can move around the ring and that can create some really good spots for this match.
So I'm going with Team SmackDown for this one, just because on SmackDown they have played the dysfunctional team with King Corbin and Roman Reigns, and usually when they go in an angle like that, they always come out and win somehow, some way. They either they luck into a win or they somehow manage to work together. So I'm going with Team SmackDown to win this one.
And as any other team, how do you beat Braun Strowman?
Yeah.
Team SmackDown has Braun Strowman.
Yeah.
So going into this, when we didn't share these predictions with each other, so we don't know what we're going to say. I had Team SmackDown circle, but I also had NXT circle with a question mark because we don't know who's going to be on that team. So for me, I feel like because of the whole takeover thing, I feel like NXT might walk away with it. But again, gun to my head, I'm with my original pick, and I'm going to say Team SmackDown as well.
All right. The next match, this was the match that I had the hardest time picking. Another champion versus champion. AJ Styles, United States champion. Shinsuke Nakamura, Intercontinental champion. Roderick Strong, North American champion.
This is kind of like the undercard champion match, where you have the not the world champion, but the next best champion on each show.
Yes, absolutely. The working men titles.
Yeah, workhorse. Yep, there you go.
I'm actually going to switch my pick here from what I circled because I've had a lot of SmackDown winning. So just for the fact that I have a lot of Team SmackDown winning, I'm going to go with AJ Styles to win this match, representing Raw.
I, from the get-go, have circled Shinsuke Nakamura, and I think for some reason people are kind of overlooking him a little bit. And I feel like, with AJ's getting to the point now where, don't get me wrong, I love AJ, one of my favorite. I've actually met him, back in 2009, 10 at a TNA event way back when. I've followed him for a while. I think they're kind of shoving him a little bit too much down our throats right now. Don't get me wrong, great wrestler. I feel like everybody's kind of overlooking Shinsuke, and I think, depending on if Sami Zayn comes to the ring with him or not, I feel like there's a way that you beat either one of those guys with Shinsuke and make it look, clean enough where it's believable. And I think that for whatever reason, Shinsuke Nakamura is going to win.
You got to keep in mind too, the club could also be involved. Gallows and Anderson.
Well, and the Undisputed Era. Maybe it's a schmoz, and somehow one of the guys falls on top of the other one, and it's over.
Two more matches to run through. We have Bray Wyatt, the Fiend, versus Daniel Bryan. I'm going with the Fiend. I don't think they're taking the belt off of him this quick. I think this could be a title reign. I think it could almost be a Brock Lesnar like, because you're not going to see the Fiend every week. It's an attraction, and he's hard to beat. And so I really think his title reign is going to last a really long time.
Well, what if they just stop shining the red light during the matches? Maybe that's the reason. Because people were saying that he draws his power from the red light, similar to the Undertaker and the Urn. Yeah. What if they just don't put the red light on?
I know, right?
But yeah, I also picked I think that you can't put the title on him and take it away after 1 month.
No.
I don't think you can do that. I think it's going to be this match could be a type of match, as like we said with the women's match earlier, that could steal the show. I think this match could be a really good match.
Yeah, I think so.
And having Daniel Bryan be his opponent, a guy that can do a lot of everything, makes the match, it's going to be interesting to see which match of these matches is the main event. It is the last match of the night. It's going to be interesting which direction they go.
Absolutely. What made this feud for me, though, was Daniel Bryan's promo last week on SmackDown, where he's talking about the mental instability and the passion. I was kind of this kind of feud was kind of for me, but that promo, it made sense. It made sense why they're facing each other. It's perfect how he mentioned that. So that really kind of made me excited for this match.
Well, and they have a history. You go back to the Wyatt family for a little while. It wasn't very long, but Daniel Bryan was in the Wyatt family. So you have this history of knowing knowing Daniel Bryan being unstable even from back then, when it was yes no, it was all that stuff. Now it's no more yes movement, and now it's planet environmentalists and all this stuff. So I like how they're playing the mental history card of them both being a little unstable and not knowing if that's why Bray picked it, or maybe he just picked it because he thought he could beat him because he's a smaller guy. Maybe that was his, because they played that off the first time too, saying that that's why Sami Zayn ran away, because you couldn't beat him by yourself. And, I feel like you said, this could be, I'm gonna drop a name. This could be a CM Punk type title reign from the Fiend. They're smart, they could run this out for well over a year.
Oh, absolutely,
and just have him destroy a lot of people.
I agree. Okay, the last match, we have Adam Cole versus the winner of the NXT TakeOver War Games Triple Threat match. That's a mouthful to say.
Say that 5 times
Yes,
fast,
I know.
Huh?
So you have Pete Dunne, Killian Dane, and Damian Priest. I'm going to go with Killian Dane to win that match, the Triple Threat. Yeah. And I will have Adam Cole somehow, some way, Killian Dane at Survivor Series.
I think it's going to be Pete Dunne. Dune. I think that for whatever reason they bill him as kind of a bigger little a force kind of guy that seems to be a kind of a badass, and I think him and Adam Cole could actually tear the house down in a type of match where they could go at it. I'm picking Adam Cole all the way no matter who he faces. I don't think they're going to take the title away from him, especially on a WWE pay-per-view. So, but I'm hoping in my head that it'll be Pete Dunne, and they have a great match because I think they could have a really good match.
I agree. All right, so that runs down Survivor Series 2019. First of all, I want to say thank you for listening to our debut episode. We put a lot of work and a lot of effort into it, as we will every other episode that we do. This is, I know, something we want to be successful. So we appreciate you guys for listening and taking the time, and we hope you stay around for our next episode.
I don't think that any wrestling fan out there wouldn't want to listen to this and kind of even like yell at the screen as one of us says.
I know.
Because as a wrestling fan, if you're passionate, you always have your own thoughts, and we're not always going to agree or disagree, and neither are you when you listen to this. And that's why we're making this. We want to have it available to you to listen to other people's things. And like I said with Tim with the Dominic Rey Mysterio thing, I saw his eyes go, oh man, you know what? Maybe that's what they'll, something like that's what that kind of interaction for me is what I'm looking for.
Yeah, absolutely.
I mean, Tim and I can talk wrestling until we're blue in the face.
Yep.
But I think it's something that gives you a different perspective from two different people who don't always agree, but will give you a look into what we're passionate about, what we think the business is doing now and even then, and what they could have done better or worse. And I think, if we can get you guys to, maybe get like a cult following, some of our listeners, listen religiously and get involved. Maybe we'll get to the point where we can have, like a Q&A or like a battle of wits kind of type thing, where we're predicting future pay-per-views with some of our fans.
Absolutely, yeah.
That would be cool.
And feel free to drop us some comments on Facebook, what you like, what you don't like about the podcast. We're open to criticism and positive feedback as well. Just let us know. We want to make the show as best, as great as possible for you guys, because we're doing it not only for us, but we're doing it for you as well.
Right, and you got to remember, this is our first episode, like we said at the beginning, so obviously you don't need to be too harsh, folks.
No.
It will get better, I promise you.
Yes, it will get better.
But I think we did a good job of getting our points across, and like Tim said, if there's something you think we could focus on more or less, or something you thought was good or even bad, take it easy on us.
Yes, take it easy. We're human people.
Yeah, let us know, and we'll address it, and we'll try to get better for you and with you.
Sure. And I think with that, we're going to look forward to episode 2. And again, thank you all for listening. And this has been Wrestling with Wrestling Past and Present.